Welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff here. We're going to talk today about some digital assets. We're going to talk about one digital asset called XRP. Now, here's the question. Will XRP go back to $3? Has it the momentum and the capability and the excitement within the community to get back to $3? That is a huge question right now. We're seeing Bitcoin trending up close to the $44,000 range. And there's still a lot of conversation. There's development, all these things that we're going to talk about today regarding XRP. And then we're also going to dive into the SEC because the SEC is still misleading the courts. There's a lot of deceptive practice. We want to get into that. We want to talk about that. We're going to get into all the great details. So if you guys are ready to kick this thing off, I'm ready to kick this thing off. So let's find it and let's do it. And here we go. Let's go.
Welcome to On the Chain.
Wow, look at that. So I'm trying to find some stuff that is currently going on over in the here it is. So I'm looking over here on Rumble. So if you're joining us on Rumble, the commentary, the title. So they just added a static stream key. And unfortunately, as I look at it, it has actually changed the title and all that other great stuff. So while we're getting started here, I'm going to save and update the title over there on Rumble. So welcome. Let's get into this. We've got a lot of great places to dig into, a lot of great things to talk about. So if you guys want to do a quick shout out to everybody that's joining, let us know where you are joining from. That's awesome. We have people that join us from all over the world, and hearing from you where you're tuning in from, the passion, the XRP community, the crypto community at large, just absolutely outstanding. So let's see here. All right. It looks like Rumble is broadcasting. It looks like we got the right title. It looks like we got the right thumbnail image over there. So awesome. Where are we going to start? So there here, I'm going to dig in. I want to get to the XRP thing. But I think what is really interesting, we'll get to that here in a minute. We want to talk a little bit about the direction that XRP is going, the direction that the crypto market is going. And I'm going to throw up a poll also, and it'll be interesting to hear some feedback from everybody as to this poll. So let me get to the poll creator while we're doing this. And while we get it all going, let me see how I can get to our all right. So here we go. I've got to open this up the right way. I thought I had it open, and then I didn't have the YouTube studio going the way I needed to have it going. So I'll get to that here in a second. We'll throw up a poll in a minute. In the meantime, again, give a quick shout out to where you guys are tuning in from. What is up, Kevin Land? Appreciate your support there. Nice super sticker. Perfect. Love it. And also to everybody out there, have an amazing holiday. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Shoot out and shout out what maybe some of your plans might be, if you're going to be hanging out skiing, or if you're going to be sitting out by the beach and relaxing, hanging out, and all that great stuff. Hans is saying it's 28 degrees Celsius over there in Cape Town. So, you're going to be out there getting a suntan. So we got Florida's here. We've got South Africa. We've got Australia. Got a bunch of people. Got Oregon. Man, the Vincent CM over in Oregon. And we've got Justin over there in Kansas. That's great. See, well, look at that. We went from South Africa all the way to Kansas, bypassing Vero Beach. So that's really cool. All right. So let's get into this. Again, we'll get to the XRP to $3 thing here in 1 second. But I do want to drill down just to go through some of the, passions over the SEC. And I find this really interesting because as we watch the whole court case unfold between the SEC and Ripple, we've also seen the SEC going after other companies during that process. So we're at the 3-year mark, and actually, we were planning on having a third year anniversary show on December 20th. We ended up streaming some more on geopolitics. Didn't do a 3-year anniversary of the lawsuit, mainly because XRP was deemed a non security by the court. So the only digital asset right now with that kind of decision on it. Big shout out to Kevin Land. Appreciate you. Thanks for the show. Nice to see it live. I'm glad you're joining us live. Really awesome. Great to see you here. And then we've got Bless coming in from Ireland. We've got the last Boy Scout over there in Toronto. And it's been a while since I've been to Toronto. Spent New Year's Eve there many years ago, and it was always freezing cold up in Toronto. So got D and I hanging out on the beach over in Thailand, watching On the Chain. So that's very cool. All right, so let's get into this. Let's dig into Stuart Alderati, and we're going to get into a little bit from Gary Gensler and what exactly is going on. What does this mean for the crypto space at large at this moment, and how is that going to have an impact on where we're currently at with the digital asset space in terms of valuations, in terms of price points? How does it influence and impact XRP? We're going to talk a little bit about also some commentary from Vitze Vin and David Schwartz as well that kind of relate with all of this. So, all right, let's first get into this one, because here's one thing that Chip and I had talked about for a while. Now, it goes back to when this court case was first dropped by the SEC against Ripple. There was a lot of commentary coming out immediately and kind of developing about a settlement. And the one thing that we had talked about way back then is there really is no path to settlement, mainly because both parties were kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum. We have the SEC very adamant about their position to go after Ripple and to go after the XRP digital asset. But what we're also seeing is that the SEC used deceptive practice then and has been using deceptive practice against other companies, to the point, and we'll bring up that article in a second, where they've begged forgiveness from the court for providing misinformation, essentially lying to the court. And so, how do you have settlement when two parties are polar opposites like that, where there is no meeting to where you can actually have a settlement? So this is interesting commentary from Stu Alderati, as we know, as counsel over there with Ripple. So here, before the SEC sued Ripple, Chris and Brad, now this is 3 years ago. This was on December 22nd. So this was yesterday. But 3 years ago today, they offered us the following settlement. Now, imagine if you're being sued and they say, okay, here's the settlement. It's going to be everything that we want and nothing that you want, and we're going to let you off the hook. Basically, you get nothing, we get everything. It might not be factual, but it's based on our opinion, our thought process, and our desire to destroy your industry. So we'll dive in, but I want to quick shout out to DJ Peter. Good morning to you as well. And Karma, thanks for joining in. Appreciate you. So here we have, okay, the SEC would announce to the market that XRP is a security. So the one non-starter back during that court case was that neither Chris or Brad Garlinghouse would allow XRP to be deemed a security because they say it's not a security. Now, eventually we could see development and the way the court had really provided opinion. XRP was not a security. However, maybe there's evidence to show that Ripple as a company sold XRP as a security. Not that XRP was a security, but the way in which they sold it could be. Now, we'll see how that ends up developing. But going back 3 years ago, here's the SEC saying, here's how we're going to settle, and here's what we want. So number one, there has to be an announcement that XRP is a security. And so, obviously that was a non-starter, and the market would be given a short window to come into compliance. Now, what is the compliance? And what was true 3 years ago is unfortunately still true today. And one of the things that we've seen going on Twitter over the past week or so is that we've seen congressional representatives and then others within the community, which have been reaching out to Gary Gensler and the SEC to write the rules for crypto. Now, how do you bring and write rules for crypto when you don't have any laws that are on the books currently related to cryptocurrency? So you're still trying to use antiquated law to write rules. Now, is it the responsibility of the SEC and Gary Gensler to write rules for cryptocurrency and essentially creating law at that point? Or is it the role of Congress to write the laws that then the SEC abides by those laws and create certain rules according to the law? Now, obviously, it's that way, right? The SEC doesn't write law. The SEC has to follow the laws that are on the books that are then written by Congress, because it's Congress that writes the laws, and then it's the judges that judge based on that, and it's the SEC that has to work according to those laws, and they can write certain rules of action, rules of the road, but they all have to be applicable back to the law. So at this point, how do you have a company? How do you have anything at this point come into compliance when there is no clear direction of what compliance means? So what was 3 years ago is still true today. However, the one thing that is also true today is that XRP is not a security. So 3 years, over $150 million in legal fees spent by Ripple. And their one premise that XRP was not a security, contrary again to what the SEC wanted, is what came true. So here we have, so Ripple said no because XRP is not a security. And two, the SEC never built a framework for crypto compliance. Not only did they not build it, like we just said, but there were no rules for them to have written and build the framework around. So it doesn't exist. There was no compliance, no path to compliance. Now, what's amazing is that was 3 years ago. And as you fast forward, we're starting to see that the SEC is still operating based on like it was 3 years ago. And like they didn't just lose this part of the court case that the SEC didn't lose that part of the court case to Ripple. So here, no matter the spin that Clayton, Hinman, Gensler, or anyone else puts on this case now, it was always about one thing: proving that XRP is not in and of itself a security. And that's what they proved. That's what they wanted to do. That's what they achieved. But yet the SEC still, as I said, and we're going to dig down into it today, is still acting tyrannical. So here we have, we put everything on the line. Few thought we would win, which is true. It was amazing. There were so many naysayers out there, but obviously they did, and we know that XRP is not a security. In the process, we exposed the SEC for the hypocritical tyrant it is, and the industry in the U.S. lived to fight another day onward to 2024. This is a great statement, great commentary. 3 years, from when this whole lawsuit was dropped, and I just love some of the commentary here. Like XRP Crypto Wolf said, XRP was never a security. The SEC knew that, but still sued Ripple because they thought they could bully them into eventually settling or losing. The SEC never expected to fight the XRP community as well. But I beg to differ on this one. I kind of agree that they didn't expect it, but the SEC came out and directed an attack against the XRP community, specifically attacking the XRP community. And there was a statement issued by their attorneys which was saying that XRP investors were not intelligent enough and weren't technologically savvy enough to understand. That was one of the commentaries, something along those lines. It was just a really, low blow and a direct attack on the XRP community. Want to give a quick shout out to Hans Loaded. Thank you very much. And there's some 70 South African, I don't know the currency, what that is, ZAR, but get your badass coffee here. So if you go to that badass YETIS.coffee.com, you can go check out some nice badass coffee. And actually, although I have it in a Segfredo cup, I am drinking the the Obsidian Bold today. I have the bag in the house, but anyhow, the Obsidian Bold, which is really, really good. It's dark, it's rich, it's tasty. Get some badass YETIS coffee. So it is awesome. So, all right. So this is kind of the direction that we need to go in here. So let's pull up the next one. And if you guys have some commentary, I'm watching your commentary as it's going. You know what? As we're doing this, let me find. I need to pull up the comments over on. I didn't open up the discussion over there on Rumble. So it's awesome. We've got 107 over here on YouTube right now, and we've got 20 over there on Rumble. So welcome everybody that's on Rumble. I meant to open up the conversation over there on Rumble. So I have it. Let me pop out the chat. Now we've got both things going. We've got Factual Seeker. Merry Christmas to all subscribers of OTC from Staffordshire, England. So welcome all the way from England, Factual Seeker, Juan I. Willie, coming in from New York City, anti-crypto New York City, to be poignant there. And the Stoic Furman is coming in from America. So got to come in from America. That is the truth right there. All right, let's dig deeper here. Let me go to the next one. Where were we? Okay, here. So now getting into going to get into the SEC begging for some forgiveness here, and then we're going to go into how Stu Alderati digging in a little further into how the SEC is actually lying to the court, kind of as a further development. And this we're going to pull up an article that showed up here on Fortune. Hang on one second. Here we go. So here we've got Fortune. SEC deeply regrets errors in crypto case. So first of all, they made some errors, but what were these errors that they made? That's what that's what we need to hyper focus on. Now, all this coming out yesterday, December 22nd. So what were they? So they asked the judge to waive sanctions after misleading statements. Now, we saw even early on in the Ripple case that the SEC was making misleading statements and speaking some untruths. But yet, if anyone else was doing that, it would be a huge blow, not only to the court case, fines, and potentially jail time, right? So we can't open this over here for some reason. I can open these on my phone, but anyhow, attorneys for the Securities Exchange apologized to a judge on Thursday for misrepresenting facts used to secure a restraining order and asset freeze against a crypto firm. So they misrepresented facts. That means they lied. That means they provided, fake information or false information or made up information to get a restraining order to freeze the assets, the money of a company. So now all of a sudden they took punitive action, punitive measures based on lies and deception. And now they're asking for forgiveness. Why? Because there's some specific sanctions and attack, back to the SEC. So now here, what's interesting is you can't leave and allow something like this to go unchecked. And it goes a little bit, further, just in general. And there's a lot of, points that will lead up to the fact that the SEC has continuously made incorrect statement. Now, the big question is all going to come back to politics. It comes back to the geopolitics of it. It's not just, some power hungry individual like Gary Gensler, who you could say is really out for his own career path. And if he is, that's still a political kind of maneuver. But you have to look at the whole dropping of this lawsuit again against Ripple to begin with, whether you agree with some of the politics that the Ripple team spews on Twitter, and you might not support their leftist rhetoric. However, the technology and the battle that this company has been up against the SEC is extremely detrimental, not just to that company, but to the entire industry as a whole. And this is really vital, right? Because we've seen that Ripple has been on the forefront. Uh, Brad Garlinghouse has been on the front lines fighting for the entire crypto industry for all those 3 years. We saw some positive development coming out from again, since XRP is not a security. But what we have not seen is that the SEC has actually been put into compliance, meaning compliance according to the law, meaning compliance to where they don't continue to commit these falsehoods against companies as they have a political agenda to dismantle and destroy this new innovative financial asset class. So if we have this brand new financial asset class, right, which is the crypto space, which is blockchain, and it's developing at a pace that has really been unseen in history. And we're talking about now what we're 13 years into it. So we say we're 13 years into this brand new asset class that's taken the entire world by storm to the point where governments are uncertain still today how to handle it, while you have other governments like El Salvador and Argentina that are fully embracing the crypto space because they see it as a path to freedom and separation from the control of other world governments. So if you can see El Salvador trying to stabilize their finances, stabilize their currency, stabilize their economy, and they found their path for stabilization is to embrace Bitcoin as a legitimate financial asset and currency. And now we're seeing that Argentina is doing the same thing. El Salvador, we have an article here, and we'll go through that in a minute, where El Salvador is actually offering citizenship in El Salvador to those that invest in Bitcoin. And now that will expand because it's not just about the Bitcoin, it's about the crypto space at large. Bitcoin then becomes synonymous, that term becomes synonymous with the crypto space, although they might be very Bitcoin centric potentially, but as it expands, the whole space expands with it. That's my opinion. So, all right, let's go to this. Let's go to this post. I think this is going to be really critical, really poignant to go over. And this is Stu Alderati again going back to the SEC. And there's some commentary here between Schwartz put something here, and then Stu commented on it. So here Stu is saying, so let me get this straight. Government lawyers lie to the court again, right? Not just misinformation, not we regret errors in the crypto case. You know, there might have been some misleading statements. Maybe we got something wrong. Maybe it wasn't 100% accurate. Maybe we made a mistake. No, it wasn't that they made a mistake. And this is that Stu Alderati is saying, let me get this straight. Government lawyers lie to the court again and to gain, lied to the court to gain an unfair advantage in litigation. So here you lie because you feel that if you're through your lie, you're going to gain an advantage in the suit. So it goes beyond making a simple mistake, and then that mistake gives you that advantage, and then you say, you know what, we were wrong about this. Go, please take away our advantage, or please, correct it. But no, they purposely mislead the court. Purposely, they think through this process, issue information that they know will give them an advantage that's based on falsehoods, that's based on misinformation, that's based on a lie. So now they're lying to the court in order to gain this advantage. This is so diabolical for this to happen. This is what happens when you have unelected bureaucrats that are running amok. The crazy thing is that you have elected officials that are still requesting that this unelected bureaucrat that is allowing their government lawyers to lie in order to gain advantage over a court case that has to do with crypto companies, because they want to they're trying to win, and they're trying to beat, and they're trying to dismantle these companies that are building in the crypto space. Now, so you have all this stuff going on. So you have this, let's call them an illegitimate entity, which are all these unelected bureaucrats that are running the SEC. Then you have elected officials say, hey, SEC, we need you guys to write the rules. Why aren't you writing the rules for the crypto space? But yet, as we talked about earlier, how do you do that when there's no laws? Congress has yet to pass the law for the SEC. So now the SEC is running unchecked, and now we see the end result of this. The SEC is completely broken, according to like Chip is saying. The SEC is broken. Basically, all three-letter agencies are broken. The government's broken. It's all broken. And it's based on this notion of the unelected bureaucrat. Think about even an unelected official that goes there and they become a lifer in Congress. So you get this you go into the House and Congress for 2 years, 2-year stints. And every 2 years you have to get reelected. So basically you work for 12 months and then you run for Congress again. You run for the House seat again for 12 months. So you're working a year, taking off a year, working a year. It's kind of chaos. And then for the Senate, they have 6-year stints. Now, even if they're lifers there and they're getting elected, they keep going back and they're finding their ways to make their money. That's bad, right? That's really bad. Their staffers make a lot of decisions. Their staffers pull a lot of strings. But worse than that are the unelected bureaucrats, those that work in government, right? This is their paycheck. This is how they make their money every single day. They're not going out. They're not gonna try to get reelected. They're hired. They're working for one of the unelected bureaucrats. So let's say Gary Gensler is appointed. He's appointed there. Then all these other people that work at the SEC, that's their day job. And they might be there for the next 20, 30 years, just pushing papers, doing whatever they do at the SEC. Now, imagine you have an unelected bureaucrat and you have all these employees that all share the same political mindset. Let's say they have the same political ideology, and their same political ideology might be slanted left. So if they're slanted left, what do you think the SEC is going to do overall in terms, they're not singling out just maybe conservative focused companies, because we know that Ripple has very left leaning ideas in terms of the people that run the company. So they're not necessarily attacking them on those politics. They're attacking the industry. But you have this entire mindset, this entire network now that have it out for this new asset class, because the SEC looks at it's a power struggle. The power struggle is the SEC is locked in tight with the banking networks, the banking infrastructure, the entire financial infrastructure. Those are where all their strings are. Now they look over here and they're like, holy crap, these guys are coming in here to compete with this space. And now that they're competing with the space, it throws things into chaos. Jeff, Chip, Chip wants me to throw him over a link to this. So I got to figure out how I can get him the link. Chip, if you have access to the Keep, I am going to put it in the Keep. So I think that's going to be an appropriate place for it. So that's what I need to do. Let's see if I can do that. Let's see how I invite you over here. Let's see if we can get Chip into the StreamYard. Let's see if we can get him over here. Chip, why is your comment still showing? Let's get your comment out of there. All right, let's get it over here. In the meantime, Jim D, Chip, the SEC is more than broken. They're working for China and Eatgate venture capitalists. We got some information on that too. So hang on a second. Let's see if we can get this over to Chip. Chip, if you are there, go to the Keep file, and you will find a link in the Keep file right now. It should be active. Let's do a refresh. Okay, go check out the Keep file and we'll bring you in over here. Merry Christmas, Robert. Yeah, it's already Christmas Eve over there. What? Is it already? Man, days are flying. You guys are so far ahead. It's already Sunday over there. All right, so where were we? We're talking about, we've got some stuff from, anyhow. And I like what Stuart's saying. Gensler's SEC has become a travesty. It really is. The whole thing is a travesty. It's really, really bad. Just the direction that this has all gone in. And this is what this, it's our own fault. Why is it our own fault? Because we're not holding our elected officials accountable. If we're not holding the elected official accountable, how do we then hold the unelected? How do we hire the lifelong career path government workers accountable for their job? Because we're seeing a lot of these government workers, again, might be slanted one way or the other, but especially, forget about them, the unelected bureaucrats like the Gary Genslers and the rest of the clown show, the shit show. Chip, I don't see you. I'll try to add you. I don't know if you're active, not active, but We're about to add you into the stream. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Chip,
Yo, yo, you hear me all?
we do. We
All
hear you.
right, what's
You
up?
have a plain gray circle, and we're good. What's
Yeah, well,
happening?
what's happened is was out late with some friends last night. What did I tell you, man?
Nice.
I'm
There
on
you
the
go.
I'm on the road traveling, so that's what I'm
On
saying.
the
So
on the road again.
on the road again, people. That's what we're doing. See, we're on the road, and you know, just doing the thing, doing the thing. It's a little bit chilly here. I'm not gonna lie, but
Chile.
that's what happens. But yeah, I saw what you're saying about the Stu Alderati. It's amazing what's coming out of Ripple. Now that the settlements, the let's say settlement with the July 13th Torres ruling, so to speak. What's interesting is they're pretty brash and bold now, right? They're like just
Mhm.
dropping it. I don't know if you got the Garling House comment that he had dropped earlier too, but it's amazing what they're saying. It's Stu Alderati too, and I know you already covered probably this bit about when we talked about the settlement and stuff, but what's important about that was how everybody we were swimming upstream, right? Dude, everybody was saying there's a settlement, there's a settlement. Every week there's a settlement. It's gonna be this week, it's gonna be before Friday, it's gonna be on Monday, it's gonna be Thursday for 2.5 years, right? But they're saying it again. So it's about this next piece, this jury and stuff. But I I saw I don't know what you covered already, Jeff. So I don't know if there was another
Yeah, we
there was
talked about that, but to that point, I think that's really important, because and that's where we were on the right side of things, which is one of the reasons even right in the beginning, we had reached out to John Deaton to bring him on the show when he intervened in this whole thing. But I think from day one, when we saw this lawsuit drop and we started talking about it, we said there won't be a path to settlement. And that I talked about that earlier on, that the two sides are just too far opposed. There's no way of an intersect to have a meeting of the minds, to have a final discussion between these two parties to say, okay, here's a path to settlement. And that's what we had covered, that the SEC was so adamant that, for them was that XRP had to be deemed a security. And if it had to be deemed a security, that's a non-starter. So there was no path. And if the SEC refused to drop that, which they did, they refused to drop that part of their suit, then how do you have a meeting? There's nothing, which is why you and I said, you know what, there's politics involved in this. There's some animosities. There's things that none of us will ever understand or know about at this point as to why this lawsuit started, exactly how, what, there's all these other players, but I think what is very clear is that through the current administration and the current unelected bureaucrat, that their purpose was to dismantle and destroy the crypto industry.
and they pretty much are on their path to doing it. And then now, so we're seeing it again. I mean, I would say the other big disagreement that I'm seeing is a lot of people on X in the community, what they're actually tweeting about. I mean, well, tweeting, posting this whole thing with Elizabeth Warren, right? What they fail to realize is that Elizabeth Warren is just they're- and it's mostly like I saw Nova put out a tweet. He's like, he's trying to talk sensible, right? He's like, listen, Elizabeth really touting behind the bank stuff, and you were the one that was really into the whole, the Consumer Protection Bureau and like that, all the things you did. Like he's trying to reason, Jeff, and there's
Hmm.
no reasoning, right? I mean, people are thinking like there's going to be some reasoning. There's no reasoning. How are you going to reason? This is their, and what they're missing is these people belong on the left. These people vote for the left. That's who they are. And
Yeah,
and if you think
that.
and you think about, but they're pretending like it's not there. They're like, well, let's try to reason. I'm like, this is what you vote for. This is who you are. Don't
Mhm.
pretend like, and they're dancing around it. Well, I think that I don't know. She's kind of gone off. I'm like, nothing's changed with her. She's been anti-crypto since day one, and people are thinking like, oh no, and they're all worried about it. And they're like, oh my gosh, other senators are signing on. Yeah, well, there's no appetite for it in the House. The whole
Right.
CBDC thing. When you had Warren Davidson on that hearing when he was actually talking about, questioning, one of the guys from the central, bank, Federal Reserve, same thing, and they're hiring developers. So, Jim D's comment about the SEC in China, like this stuff is coming out, like there's more and more stuff leaking out about it. and it's stuff we'll get into covering in a closer, I guess, a little bit tighter. But Jim D's right. They've been sidestepping this whole thing with China. But the whole administration has been doing that, and he brings up a really good point. It's like you're talking about massive fraud, massive issues going on, protecting people. Some people are protected. There's a couple people out there talking about it, but not a lot, Jeff. And it's like it's almost like a taboo to go down that road because nobody else wants to talk about it. But everybody wants to talk about it from the standpoint of their my XRP investment in CBDCs. Well, what does a CBDC have to do with XRP, right?
What does Ripple have to do with XRP at this point?
Right, and people are putting so much. They're like, oh, Ripple this and Ripple that. I'm like, it's all totally against the lawsuit. We remember what the lawsuit was. It's like back then it's like the people that are building the space, and the amendments that are coming around for vote. That's what's going to do it. It's not what you left there. So you're laughing again. There's some comment or something.
Sorry. These comments come up. Hands loaded. Chip got that Kupla semitones.
Yeah, that's right. I got the
lower baritone morning sub bass in his voice.
I do have that.
Yeah, like
I do that. Well, that's called cigars. So so
were you smoking cigars last night?
Smoked 2 sticks last night. Yeah.
2. Holy cow.
With my 2 the night before.
Bourbon.
Yeah, old fashions, the whole thing, man. Sitting outside with heaters, and it was a good night. Some Four Roses, some Hayden, some.
Oh, there you go.
Some what else was there? Just a bunch of stuff, man. But yeah, that's the thing. The baritone and Hans, I would say congratulations on your new gig, man. He says he hasn't made the stream because he's been working at his new gig. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, congrats. That's awesome.
It is awesome, man. It's an awesome thing.
Really awesome, man. I'll tell you what. This whole thing, and one thing that you and I always talked about right from the beginning, we brought this up, is that at the end of the day, politics factors its way into everything. Whatever those politics might be, it doesn't always have to be left versus right. Sometimes the politics. It is most of the time. Yeah, but most of the time it is. But at the same time, there's also inner politics, because you could be like with a Gary Gensler, for instance, or the SEC. The SEC is fighting for its own survival, for its own way, and whether. So we're seeing is Gary Gensler doing the bidding of the current administration? The whole tone, you brought up Elizabeth Warren, the whole tone is anti-crypto right now, and they're trying to create a narrative to push the entire narrative towards. They want to push the narrative towards this digital currency, to the CBDCs that you mentioned. What's interesting about it, though, is as they try to dismantle Ripple is also the one that's developing the software to build the CBDCs.
Right.
So where is this? Where's the intersect with all of this? It gets a little chaotic.
Yeah, well, the whole thing is chaotic, Jeff. It's like I'm like, man, I'm looking rough on camera.
You look rough.
I'm looking rough, Jeff. This is not a good.
You're looking rough, man. You're yawning.
So I'm trying to figure out this. I'm figuring out this phone because it's usually you're the one on the phone. But I was like, yeah, right? Look at this tapestry behind me over here.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but
wealth extraction. That's part of it. I think that's what Robert is saying. There's a part they're trying to extract out wealth. They're trying to make a really determine direction of things. Yeah. And that's where the SEC. Here's a statement right here. Let me share this. This is interesting because as we develop again, it's interesting that we have to go back to talking about the SEC again, because they never shut up. These guys never go away. They don't stop. They don't sit down, and they keep saying stupid things. It's just it's mind numbing. So here's, but this is an opinion piece. But here, SEC Chair Gary Gensler, far too many frauds and bankruptcies in the crypto space. Basically, there's the video over here. But and there are some. But earlier this month, I had an opportunity to speak with U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission Gary Gensler, recognized by CoinDesk as one of the most influential figures in the crypto industry over the past year, about how he views his agency's role. So this whole narrative, why does it matter? Of course it matters. Where's the comment? I know the comment's here somewhere. While he has deep respect for the investing public, Gensler told CoinDesk.
What is this article, Jeff? Where is this from?
This is CoinDesk.
This is CoinDesk, so he was one of the 10 or whatever influential people. How is he influential?
But influential could be pro or neg. It could be good or bad. So influential to the point that he's the one that's been screwing up this whole court case.
Well, he's been
And
destroying.
they're
He's destroyed it.
lying. They're right. All this, the lies, the deception, the deceptive practice. That's what we were talking about before. But
Yeah,
here, when this Gary Gensler, while he has deep respect, in quote, deep respect for the investing public, which we know he doesn't,
yeah.
he does not believe crypto investors are receiving appropriate disclosures for the various projects they may be buying tokens for, which to an extent could be true.
Hmm.
There are some. There are far too many frauds and bankruptcies out there. Well, to be fair, there are frauds and there are bankruptcies, and we see
Right.
a lot of banks that commit lots and lots of fraud and pay billions and billions of dollars in fines because of their fraud. There are bankruptcies. Some of these bankruptcies are due to the current theme that the SEC is pushing,
Hey
right?
Jeff,
There's a kind of a tone. That's
hey,
the
can you?
influence.
I can't get to Axe, but can you go to Axe in my timeline and just pull? Posted something that Gensler got a lot of action too, but I said Gensler the fraud because he's basically the fraud. And
See,
but go to that one that I reposted.
all right, let's see
And
if I can get that one here. Hang on a
it should be in
second.
my timeline. All right, I reposted it, so I think it was like yesterday, maybe, or the day before. I don't remember, but the whole thing about the whole, this is always a good trick too. If you guys have ever seen this, like you post these, all of these stories are just to get traffic to their website, so they know that the XRP community is large, so they go ahead and make Brad Garlinghouse, and rightfully so because of the whole lawsuit. But he was the one that basically said, "We're not bending the knee. We'll take you on." And Stu Alderati's post that you had up earlier really kind of speaks to the whole idea that they were they were sort of misjudging it, and with the whole settlement piece. But ultimately, to be right in that whole thing, and really, I mean, if anybody should be thanking Ripple, it should be the whole crypto industry, because they fought the battle that most people would have bent the knee. We saw what happened to everybody else, Jeff. You've talked a lot about this when we saw other people say, well, just pay $30 million, right? Pay $30 million. And then what happens is like, well, they come knocking on your door 8 months later, right? Well, if you don't stand up and fight, but who has $150 million in their back pocket? I mean, Ripple was strong enough to fight it, but we saw what happened to Library. And this is the takedown, right? But why don't we pass some legislation that says if you go after somebody and you lose in court, you pay their court fees? Because the litigation is ridiculous. You got to go. It seems like the SEC, you're guilty. Go prove yourself innocent. No, it's not how it works. You're innocent until you're proven guilty. And if they want to come after you and waste all those resources, I think that they should pay for it. The U.S. government, it's our tax money.
Right.
There
Is
it is
this
right
one you're
there.
talking about?
That's the one I'm
Nailed it.
talking about. Yeah, that's
So
the one right there. No, that's not the one. It's actually it's in that thread. Click on that. It's in that. There it is.
that's it.
Does it say the fraud?
Gensler the fraud gets community noted. So
Dude, look at the
Gary
community
Gensler.
note on this. First,
Yeah.
first, if you play this little clip, there he goes again and talking about blah blah blah. And it's so
Yeah.
great that we have community notes now. It's like, okay, so anybody reading that's going to read the community notes and the fraud that he is, right? So I love
So
the community
the
notes.
community note, crypto companies like Coinbase, public company that the SEC oversaw the listing of, have been trying to gain clarity on SEC guidance for compliance for the past few years. The SEC hasn't taken a clear stance and has relied on regulation by enforcement. Yeah, and that's
That's a
really
great
great.
community note.
Yeah. So let's go. Let's see what this guy has to say. Let's see if we can. Oh, I got to unshare it because I
Yeah,
didn't put audio. So I got to
yeah, you
stop.
unshare it and then you put it back on there. But it's great that we have community notes, because you can't just randomly tweet a bunch of garbage now. And let's say, I know Elon Musk has talked heavily about this. They're not always, they're not 100% on. I'd say they're probably 80%, because some of them I've seen where it's more opinion based, where it's actually sort of fact based. But
Yeah,
this one is fact based. So, and what's amazing about Gensler is like, why does he even post anymore? If he
right.
posts something, and every one of the comments, the XRP community comes in there and hammers him. The crypto community comes in and hammers him, right? Because whatever he's going after next, they come in there and say a bunch of stuff. So
The problem with him though is that he thinks he's right. He thinks he's justified. He thinks he's right. He doesn't think that he's doing, and that's what's crazy. He just doesn't think that he's on the wrong side of it. So if you have someone like that that doesn't think that he's on the wrong side of it, then what is that? How do you hold somebody like that to account? You can't.
well,
You don't. You can't
But
hold him
Jeff,
accountable because the guy could care less. He doesn't care what's going on.
right, but what do you think this article does? When he sees this article, it just blows his head up even more, right? He's like, "Oh, I'm influential, you see," and he probably, in his creepy office that he had at home, that he always was talking
Yeah.
from. He
Oh, he
probably
has a
printed
green
it out
screen.
like giant and sitting on his wall, right? He's like, "Look, almost." He probably sent it to his kids and his family, and look, I'm most influential.
And this thing was
Yeah,
recorded. This thing
but
is
the wrong way.
recorded so low. The volume
Oh,
sucks.
I hate when they do
Let's see if
that.
you can hear this. Hang on.
There's a lot of non-compliance with the securities laws that are there to help give you the disclosure so you can make the investment decision, but also to protect you against fraud and manipulation. And there's been far too much fraud and and bad actors in the crypto field. There's a lot of non-compliance, not only with the securities laws, but other laws around anti-money laundering and protecting the public. This is really the Wild West, and it's a
Here's the problem I keep having with this guy. And other
Go,
than,
Jeff. Let's hear the rant. This is Saturday morning rant.
money
Go.
laundering
hey,
and protecting the public.
so here he keeps talking about compliance. So this is the Wild West, but I have to rewind way back here somewhere. Bad actors. We know there's bad actors. I wish they would say, hey, you know what? Just like in the banking industry, just like in the financial industry, just like in all industries, there's bad actors. The crypto industry is no different, but they don't say that. They just focus on there's bad actors in the crypto space. There's no bad actors anywhere else. Nobody else is committing fraud. Nobody else, only in the crypto space, they're committing fraud. So we have to protect the investing public from the crypto fraud. Now, that would
Hmm.
assume that most crypto, and there's people in on both sides, right? There's people that will, and I think it's you have companies that are building up in the crypto space, like you have like a Dogecoin, for instance. It was just like a nonsense thing. It was just thrown out there kind of as a joke. It's gotten lots of traction as being serious, but they never said it was serious to begin with. They didn't say, hey, we're creating this amazing financial class. This Dogecoin is going to replace currency. It's going to be amazing. And then all of a sudden people find out that somehow it's corrupted, and then you have these meme coins that come out, and a meme coin, everybody knows what it is. It's kind of like a joke. Hey, but if there's a fast path to try, people are trying to gain wealth quickly, they're going to jump in and out of any type of fast transaction to make money fast. Banks, when a bank commits fraud and it's an established industry that's regulated by the government and has oversight by government agencies and the SEC and all these different agencies, and then they commit fraud and then they get fined and and you'll see the SEC takes action on these then they're fined, then the business as usual, no big deal. And they act like it's no big deal. And Gary Gensler seems to act like it's no big deal. Hey, you committed fraud, you screwed people over. So what? You're JP Morgan. Here, pay $1 billion in fine and in fines, and everything goes away. And you can go on next year. You can screw people all over again. But here, Chip, the biggest issue I have with all this, they keep focusing on the bad actors. Then they say they're in non-compliance. But there's no how do you come into compliance when there's no path to compliance, when there's nothing. And they've stayed on this narrative and this theme. It's 3 years now. It's so stale. It's so old to continue on this path. It's crazy. And money laundering. They got to protect the public, AML, KYC. But yet the banks are committing all sorts of fraud and pushing money around for terrorists.
Right. Well, the funny thing is, it's like lockstep with Elizabeth Warren, and they're trying to. What do you say? Bad actors like J.P. Morgan, Chase, and everybody else, all these other big incumbent banks
Yeah.
that have been fined out there. I mean, the J.P. Morgan stuff. I mean, it's all of it. I mean, you look at the bank. So at least on blockchain, at least you can track the transfers, right? It's so funny because like the FBI can track down the wallet address, and they can actually track down who's doing it. So, but then you see Warren out there. She was out there the other day talking about, well, the fact that the Wild West, same stuff. It's the Wild West. It's not the Wild West. And that Coinbase, when Coinbase petitioned them, the SEC, to come up and write clear rules of the road, I think a lot of people misinterpreted that. They were looking for like that the SEC was actually going to do that. The reason they can't do it because there are no clear rules. There's only their
Right.
interpretation, and they interpret the Howey test. It means everyone's guilty. That's their come from, but they're not going to put it on paper. But what was significant about that was we found out that Coinbase was just really looking for them to have something in the public record saying that they weren't able to write clear rules of the road, which signifies the fact that there aren't clear rules of the road. And everybody's going on about this, the Bitcoin ETF. And what's funny is everyone's flipping out. Oh, there was a conference call and everybody's on that. Well, of course it's going to happen, right? The judges have already intervened. It's not like it's not going to happen. But everyone's flipping out like, what is the SEC going to do? Well, they're going to go ahead and go for it because the judge already intervened. Now, when they do that and when they try to do that, and we've seen some other ones already walk back. I think it was BlackRock. One of them walked back some of the ways that you could participate. You couldn't use. It had to be money alone. You couldn't use other assets to sort of do this. To purchase with. But I mean, we're relying on an agency that's just terribly broken, and it's
So broken.
It's not going to get any better. And everyone's like, and I see like, and Tony from Thinking Crypto he just hammers Gensler 24/7. He goes, "You're a fraud. Resign now. He should be fired tomorrow." It's like you can't fire. That's the whole thing you have always talked about, Jeff. You can't fire these guys. They get elected. They get nominated. They get voted on, and they're there, man. Until something hits the fan, like they create like a felony or something like that, they're there until the end, right? There's not, you can't get rid of them. And I think that that's where people thinking that something's going to change, and they're like, why don't they make Crypto Mom? Why don't they make her the chair? Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And obviously, when the administration changes over next year,
Maybe.
Are they going to do it? I don't think so. They'll put some other banker official in there.
Yeah, that's the problem. They're you get these unelected bureau, but it's not just the Gary Gensler, it's the rot in the agency in its entirety. And that's what I was saying. You have all these employees that are there too, that have been there for eons. They're there as a career politician. You think they care? They don't care. And that what happens and what we're seeing in government workers is that they believe, since that's their day-to-day job, these elected and unelected bureaucrats that get appointed come and go. A lot of them come and go. So the lifers there, not the ones that are elected for life that shouldn't be there, but the employees that are there, they think they run the show. And maybe they run the show. They do the day-to-day work. They're the ones actually doing everything. So if you get an agenda stuck in that, it gets problematic. Yeah, coffee's good.
Giant
What are you
thing of
drinking?
coffee.
Merca.
No, I'm not drinking this. It's what's the name of that coffee? Something Naked Man. Babe, what's the name of that coffee? What's the name of that coffee, please? It's called something Naked Man. I don't know. So.
Nice. So here's XRP blinder. It must suck being Gary's twin. I'm not Gary. Stop hitting me.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry.
So Chip, another thing that I wanted to bring up here, and this is so one of the other points that everyone keeps talking about is the direction that XRP is going in. I see so much commentary on this on Twitter lately. Is here we sit at 61 cents again, right? If we go back a couple years, so now Bitcoin is back to 44,000. XRP is still sub $1. We don't see any big movement in XRP, and so I was looking. I saw this comment here from Coining 203, and so summer, and it's true. It really was. If you remember the summer of 2017, was brutal. Everything, there were a lot of lows. And then around Thanksgiving, things were going crazy. It just went parabolic around the Thanksgiving time. Granted, after January 1st of 2018, things went the other way, parabolic. Went parabolically over the cliff. But here you have the summer of 2017 was brutal. ETH was making highs. Then LTC took off, all while XRP just sat there, right? So XRP was hovering. It was like in this, I think it was like 18, 19, 20 cents, 24 cents, back down to like 17, 20. I don't remember the exact number. It was somewhere in that range. But I guess here he's saying it was ranging 22 to 28 cents.
Yeah.
Call me cat, agreed. Holding through the summer of 17 was brutal. Watching all the other coins getting moonshot while XRP ranged between 22 cents and 28 cents was hell of an endurance test, paid off handsomely in the end. And it did. So here you are, you're sitting in that range. Problem is, I was still new to the space personally in 2017, the summer of 2017. It was more like September timeframe. And I'm like, hey, I'm all in on this crypto thing. And I was just trying to figure it out. And then I got to ride that wave, 2017, 2018, where everything went up. It just went parabolic, went crazy. Bitcoin had gone from 3,000 up to 20,000. So the whole market, the industry, the news, everyone was crypto, rah, rah, rah. Crypto's the greatest. Here's how you invest. And they went on the news on NBC or whatever and CNBC. Here's how you buy Ripple, or here's how you buy XRP. Back then they called it Ripple. And here's how you do everything. And here's how you invest. And then it went the other way. 2018, then the media was like, crypto's the worst. You better get out. How low can it go?
They wanted people to
Where's
sell
it
it
going?
when it dropped.
What's that?
CNBC was telling you how to sell it as it was like
Right.
dropping like a bomb. It's
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
this is how you sell it, But you remember back then, it wasn't easy to actually buy. Today, it's super easy.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah. Now, yeah.
but this is why I think we need unity in the space, because if you think about because people were like, remember that $3 plus rise of XRP really stemmed from the fact that there was a rumor going around that would Coinbase list it. And it turns out
Right.
they didn't list it, but it was like, so news, they always say news couldn't affect it, but then it was, because that also meant that it could get into a lot of people. But I also think a lot of people, based on a rumor, were really starting to purchase, right? So kind of like affecting the price as well. But this is why people are like, I don't like Coinbase because I didn't get my my tokens, and from what was that token called, Jeff? I have Zahao in my brain now because it's
From
all
where?
Zahao, but back, the token, because the Flare, they were like,
Oh,
yeah, they didn't
Songbird.
get their Songbird token,
Songbird.
right? And it's like, so everyone started hating on Coinbase, and I'm like, Coinbase is our best chance for mass adoption, right? It's like the next best thing to having, banks involved. We saw the Ledger recently, people getting hacked on the Ledger, and that whole
Right.
thing came to,
Crazy.
and you're like, I'm like, you know what? The ZOM is now called, what is it called? What's the new Zaman? Yeah, so Zaman. I don't
Zaman.
know if you guys have updated it, but the cool thing is the logo is the same. So my app didn't change. It does
Right.
have some cooler features, and you have two networks now. So you have the Zahao network and you have XRP, and I'm imagining that this is going to get even better. But the ease of use of this is fantastic. I had to send somebody some XRP the other day, and it was like, give me your wallet address, give me, obviously sending it to like a, cold storage. Okay, give me your tag. I'm going to send a small amount, verify it. Okay, here you go. I sent, something over, and it's like, it's so easy to use, and it's even better if you can scan the code. But
Hmm.
why was there so much division? You and I was a Bitcoin maxi. I was a Bitcoin maxi. I sold my Bitcoin because it had never demonstrated in the marketplace that it could go, past 1,000, right? And back then it was like, oh, you bought it, people thought it was dust because it was like you had a couple hundred Bitcoin and you couldn't really do much with it, but you had it and you put it on a hard drive somewhere and you forgot about it. And then it went to $67,000. You're like, whoa, where's that? Where is that? So there's even less of Bitcoin, altogether. So I'm like, man, but you don't have to like Coinbase. You don't have to have an account there. But if you don't
Right.
understand what it represents and what's happening in the courts, because this next big Coinbase one is going to be even more significant. It's going to be, potentially bigger than the Ripple one. But this is how we win. You back the horse that's going
Mm.
to crush the SEC, right? And if you are if you're in a scenario where you're trying to figure out, um, you know, there's not going to be any crypto legislation until a new administration. Do you agree on that, Jeff? There's not going to be any.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I don't see, even though there's a lot of talk, we saw bills being presented, we saw stuff passed through Congress, or through the House, it just is not going to pass the Senate. When you have somebody like an Elizabeth Warren over there,
No.
it's not just that we needed the new administration. We need a majority in the Senate. We need a majority in the House, the Senate, and the White House in order to get positive crypto legislation. Because otherwise, if we saw that, if right now, if there was a majority with the current resident in the White House, and then you had a majority in the House, a majority in the Senate, we'd see potentially bills pass through that would destabilize crypto entirely. If like then Elizabeth Warren and some of the others had their way, but even then they're so ineffective. They're so pegged to their own personal wealth creation. How fast can they make their own money? That's what it's all about. They're so focused on self-interest and not focused. Well, self-interest and political power, and they're not really focused on what's best for the country, what's best for generations to come. How are we going to make, if we have this amazing, imagine if they would have taken the internet. We've talked about this so many times. Imagine if they would have looked at
True though.
the internet and said, you know what, they're creating a lot of competition for the media. Why don't we go after them and say, you know what, you can't have blogs. Blogs just don't work. Unless you're a licensed, media, carry a licensed card as a reporter, you're not going to be able to write a blog. You can't share your opinions in the public space. So we have to have rules. So whatever organization that would be to say, yes, you have freedom of speech, but you're really a reporter and you're not working for a licensed news agency. So you have to come into compliance. We're going to write rules for that. And we're going to give it to this group, this unelected bureaucrat. We're going to let them write the rules. Oh, wait a minute. We have some laws on the books called the First Amendment. Oh no, that's okay. We're just going to make it up as we go along, and could you imagine? And then they would say .com, internet. Nope. You can't have blogs. You can't write anything unless you're licensed. I mean, it's getting out of hand.
As we sit here, as you're saying that, a part of me, we're thinking like, come on, that's preposterous. Like, that sounds so ridiculous, sounds so bizarre, but nothing's bizarre or ridiculous today because, like you said, the First Amendment, we have this issue today. We have it with getting deplatformed if you're not on Rumble, if you're not on, if you're on YT, if you're on Facebook, if you're on all of these. Well, at First Amendment, they have there's another rule about, what you can say and you can be deplatformed and everybody who's so excited about, I mean, I think the bigger threat, I understand the crypto, I get it, you're steeped in it, but the bigger threat is when a judge rules and says, okay, you, the government, were interfering and you went back to Twitter and you were deplatforming people because you didn't like what they were saying. So that to me is way more egregious when you think about the violation of someone's First Amendment rights, right? They can't, because it's wrong speak, doesn't agree with the narrative. But people are upset about the crypto. I wish people would be as passionate. I know the people, and I'm not talking about the people here because I know you're passionate and I know that you're into freedom. That's important to everybody here. I'm talking about the other people out there, in just general crypto land or whatever their hot button is. Like, if you lose your First Amendment, none of this other shit's going to matter. I mean, it's not going to matter, Jeff. And people are just like
Exactly
rolling
right.
it. Like they ask, like, well, yeah, I know you get fixated on one thing, Elizabeth Warren and this and that, but she's done a lot of bad things too. I mean, there's a lot of other legislation and stuff. Even to look at her bills, none of them
All
passed,
bad thing. Nothing.
but they're
All
bad,
bad.
right? And it's
All
right.
bad.
And so the Wild West, Elizabeth Warren, Gary Gensler, bad actors, yeah, great. So let's go through. And Jeff, we've done this a number of times where we went through all the banks and the bad actors, right? The large institutionals, because I really think that they ought to change the SEC their focus, right? Because one of the things they're supposed to do is protect the investor, but I think what they have to do is we have to edit that and insert institutional because they're protecting the institutional investor, they're
Right.
protecting the incumbent banks. They are not protecting us. They're not protecting the end user. And
True.
they recently lobbied to try to change how to become a you had to have so much capital so you could actually be part of certain types of assets. You had to like they're
Well, you have to
always
become an accredited investor is not easy, and they wanted to make it more difficult to become an accredited investor.
right. But did that ever go? Was that something that actually went through? Like I know they were proposing that, but
Yeah, I don't know if it actually. I don't think it actually changed. I don't think they changed.
no, they were just floating that, right? About the
It's
whole
already
credit
it
investment.
was already difficult to become an accredited investor. You have to have. I think you have to have individual earnings minimum of like 300,000, or it's either 2 or 300,000, and then you have to have assets of
Assets,
$1 million plus. There's some criteria, and an accredited investor can invest pre-IPO. That's where
right,
you make your money, right? So, but there's
right.
risk involved.
Especially if you're in Congress, that's where you really make your money, Jeff.
Exactly, right. Because yeah, once they're voting on legislation that's going to be relevant to a specific industry, just like now we saw Pelosi invested. I think she was shorting on Nvidia. So they were pulling options. Actually, they invested option contracts on Nvidia. So the question is, what's happening? Like what's about to happen that they're putting in options on this stock, and we've seen that multiple times over. They put an option in on the stock, and all of a sudden they make a shit ton of money. How is it that you make, what does a senator make? 200,000, 220, a congressperson makes 180 per year. How do you make millions? I mean, I get it. When you're in public
Inside
office,
information.
it's all insider trading information. But if you're an elected official and that's your job, you're a public official, granted you're elected, until you come out of office, you should not be allowed to get paid for speeches. Because now if
Well,
you go and
who
give a
floated
speech
that though?
somewhere, what's
It
that?
was actually a Democrat that just floated that. Trying to think who was that? Wasn't the guy? Was it um, um, the senator? It was somebody out of California, but they proposed that if you were in office, you can't own any
Can't
stock or
invest.
crypto. Yeah, you can't invest. But and there was that one X account called Pelosi's Trading or something like that, and all
Right.
it did was post when she traded, when she sold, and I think
Yep.
that got taken down or something. That one sort of something happened
Yeah,
to that. I don't know if it's
the,
still
the
out
whole
there.
thing, the whole thing is lopsided. But if you're an elected official, you should not be able to get paid for speeches. When they get paid for speeches, they can make $300,000-$400,000 in a speech until you come out of office. Because if you're in, but even if you get paid for a speech and you get paid an extreme amount beyond what's reasonable for a speech, whatever that means, you can say, you want to pay me $1 million to come and speak, I'll do it. But is there a point where you can compare your speech to another someone else in your same, ranking or whatever of the significance on a topic, whatever it might be, and what did they get paid? Could that be considered payback? Do we have pre-payback? Like when Barack Obama was given a book deal, and before he didn't write the book, he was running for president, didn't write the book, nothing came out, didn't have pen to paper. They gave him $1 million advance on his book deal because they knew it would probably sell, or at least they would buy it out
No,
and make it a bestseller. But they
no.
advanced him $1 million before he put pen to paper because he needed money because he was running for election and didn't really have money.
Well,
But
he also
now
got a Nobel
they're
Peace
worth a shit
Prize
ton. He
before
also got a
taking
Nobel
office.
Peace Prizes as soon as he got in office for doing nothing, for doing zero. Talk about fraud, deception, and everything else. They also gave, yeah. I mean,
But
it's
Jeff,
crazy. It's crazy.
book deals are how they launder money. Okay, so this is how you do it. So
Book
the
deals and artwork.
well, art, yeah, artwork. Hey, I'm a painter now. Great. I'll buy that $500,000 painting and set fire to it. I don't know, do something with it, right? So, but that's how you launder money. So these politicians, like, and you know how you know it's not good? Like we have in the States here something called Costco, or like they're like these big giant discount places. So they give you so you go to Costco and you see piles of these books. They
Yep.
can't even discount them out, right? You go into bookstores and you see the markdown sticker on it. It originally sold for $24.95 and they can't
A
give
book
it away
for
for $3, right? So what happens is they, like you said, Jeff, they do the advance, right? Sometimes they advance $1 to $5 million. Not one book has been sold. Then when it comes out, some other entity that's involved in the laundering of money will buy a bunch of them and put it on the New York Times bestseller. It's like, this is a best-selling book, but not because we bought it, because some entity bought it, and then it ends up, I don't know, they use it for kindling, for starting fires in their fireplace. I don't know what they do with it, but this is what happens. This is a great way to launder money and like artwork. And that's the whole thing with NFTs. It's like, a Bored Ape sold for, $7 million. Okay, who's going to track who bought it? The money laundering scheme, it's like I bought it for $1 million, and then somebody else. And then I was hearing about last night in casual conversation about a mayor who had a bunch of folks over to his in a card game. There's nothing illegal with that, and everybody put like $1 million in the pot and then folded. It's like, oh my gosh, I won $5 million. It's like, oh, I won, and he ended up going to prison. But it's like I won $5 million because everybody, oh, I don't have a good hand. Like, oh, I won the hand, right? So there's all kinds of clever ways to do money laundering, but it's like it's on the up and up, and the insider trading. It's so funny how everybody. Oh my God,
Yeah. So
no,
are you
no, no! I'm sitting down, Jeff. I can't take it. I can't.
are you
Even
telling
I'm like,
me that people are reading her books? Are you telling me that she's actually writing books? Did she really write and I know most politicians, most athletes, they all use ghostwriters to write books because I know a few ghostwriters
who wants
and
to
I
read
know
her book,
and
dude?
I know books that they've written. I know who they write for. I know they interview the people and then they write the book for them. And so that happens all the time. It's commonplace, common standard, industry standard. Is anyone going to buy her book? I mean, seriously, does anyone truly believe that there's a fighting chance that the two income trap,
Well, what's the
Here's
story then?
all your worth, persist. Like, did she persist? When you lie to get a position, is persistence and all your worth in lying? I guess it is, because Gary Gensler is trying to cover up lying of the SEC. Elizabeth Warren
True.
lied to get elected and lied to get into Harvard, lied to get a job or wherever she went to. It's like her whole life is based on deception. President Biden committed, he plagiarized work when he was in law school. He should have been kicked out of school, but yet they kept him in school. Then Biden, during one of his congressional races, plagiarized a speech and got called out on national media. When he ran for
No,
president back at that time, when he was running, he plagiarized a speech, and he had to step down from running because it was so embarrassing on the global stage, on the media stage, that he plagiarized a speech. Now, this is the guy that's president, but that shows you how far we've come from some semblance of ethical behavior, where you have a sitting senator who lied about her heritage in order to, and didn't just lie about it and say, hey, that's who I think I am, but she got benefit from lying. She got benefit. She got her job that paid $400,000 a year and was recognized based on her lie and deception.
right, but look at
And
her. Look at her wealth. Look at her
crazy.
wealth. Let's find out when she went in office 12 years ago compared to today. And you look at John Deaton's book. Here's a guy, with single mom who went to bed hungry, whose mother cried because he went to bed. That's a story of a self-made man. Went on to become a millionaire. Went on to, he was a random guy. And I remember a lot of people in the space are like, "Who's this John Deaton? I don't trust him." There's some. What's in it for him? Well, what's in it for him is, he's a Bitcoin,
Amazing.
ETH, and an XRP investor. He's talked about the fact that his biggest bag is not XRP, but it was the whole principle that and then 75,000 people of us got behind it. And I don't care what anybody says. Without John Deaton, I don't know that we get the July 13th Torres ruling the way it came out, right?
I don't
So,
think so. I think it would have
you
been,
know,
it would have settled. It wouldn't have settled. It would have just been a settled outcome, meaning the SEC, there's a good chance they would have won because there
yeah,
was
you look
no
at that
involvement
story.
from the people.
But Jeff, what's Elizabeth Warren's story? I've swindled people my whole life. So when I was swindling people, lying about my, misappropriating somebody else's race, a Native American, and then because my Meemaw and my Pawpaw, and we gotta find that audio. We gotta play because it's so ridiculous, Jeff.
Yeah.
She goes, and they had high cheekbones. I'm like, well, what the hell? My wife has high cheekbones. So maybe she's, it's like the dumbest thing ever. It's like, I had high cheekbones and I just thought it
Yeah.
was a Native American. I'm like, okay, so you lied about that. You swindled people. You cheated other people who could have become a tenured professor, but you became a tenured professor. And so how do you come on from there? Well, I'll tell you, it's pretty simple. The next thing you do is you go to Congress and you go start swindling the American public again. So her whole life has been a lie and a deception. It's like, when John Deaton floated the idea of running against her, he's like, maybe I'll buy a house. I'm like, look, you live in Rhode Island. It's a stone's throw from Massachusetts. What do? Go buy a house there, man. Buy a summer house, whatever. We had Hillary Clinton. She was a grifter as well. So, but anyway, Jeff, look at the time. We got to get out of here.
We
I got
we
to get out
definitely
of
got to
here.
get out of here. It's crazy, the corruption. I'm looking at her tax returns and
Yeah, I got to
what
bail.
she's reporting, how much money she's made. But anyhow, it was awesome coming on today. We talked a little bit about that XRP, the direction it's going to go to. But then we talked about that potentially going to that $3 mark again. Not sure. Goodbye, Chip. So lots of stuff to go through. Tomorrow night, Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll be on Rumble. Won't be on YouTube. We will be over on Rumble. We'll be streaming over there. We're going to be talking more about the politics of everything. Try to reserve today for the crypto over here on YouTube. Really a pleasure seeing everybody here with us. We had almost 200 people. We probably had about, take it back, about 150 people with us today, between Rumble and YouTube, and then on Twitter, a bunch of people over there too. And I think we have our one person. Well, today, I don't know where they were. They were on before. We have our one person that always joins us over on Twitch. It's awesome to see you guys. If you haven't joined us over on Rumble yet, let me just throw out the link. Go ahead and join us. Follow us over on Rumble. That's where we stream. You get notifications over on Rumble when we go live over on Rumble. Obviously, you get the notifications over on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to us yet on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit the thumbs up on both. Make sure though, follow that link. Go check us out. Go follow us over on Rumble. We don't stream on YouTube Sundays and Wednesdays. We're only over on Rumble. That we get a lot freer. We talk. We really dig into it. We're going to talk a lot more on the politics and the geopolitics of everything. That's what we got. That's it. We'll check you guys here out on the next one, which is Sunday evening. Actually, you know what? I take that back. It's Christmas Eve Sunday. So I don't think we're going to be on for all those. You guys are going to be with your families. Scratch Sunday. We're out Sunday, Christmas Eve. We'll be back with you guys Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Everybody out there around the world, have a great Christmas. Appreciate you guys. And we'll check you guys out on the next one. How do we get out of here? There we go. We're out.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.